Well, Ugnaughts and Jawas. What an experience. What an absolute terrific, fantastic Star Wars experience that we all got to enjoy just then. This is Mando Talk, your home for Ahsoka discussion. I'm your host, Caleb Keller, and I just wrapped watching episode 4 of Ahsoka titled Fallen Jedi, written by Dave Filoni, directed by Peter Ramsey. Peter Ramsey's most known for helping with the first Spider-Verse film. He was a co-director. He also directed an episode of The Mandalorian Season 3. That was fantastic Star Wars that just graced my TV screen. 10 out of 10 episode. I'm going to go ahead and say it. That's my review. 10 out of 10. Literally perfect television, enjoyment, thrilling, lightsaber on lightsaber action. Not once, not twice, but 3 times. It was stellar from beginning to end. And guess what? We're going to go ahead and spoil it. By the way, spoiler discussion, spoiler breakdown, spoiler review. Let's talk about the ending. I don't care. We usually go linearly. We usually go from beginning to end, and we're definitely going to do that here soon. Hayden Christensen, he's back. Anakin Skywalker is back. World Between Worlds is back. Wow. I'm legit shocked. We are now 4 episodes in. This is the halfway mark, and Filoni did not hold back. That literally happened. And clearly, you can tell. Again, I do these episodes immediately in my living room after watching the episode. I'm still shocked. I'm absolutely flabbergasted, but I'm so pumped. I am so happy. I'm an extremely happy Star Wars fan. And I'll leave it at that. So before we even get to the breakdown, there was my review. I'm literally so shocked. My jaw, and I kid you not, I know this is something that a lot of people say, my jaw was wide open to the floor. Not necessarily like an emotional moment there at the end, but enough to where I could feel the chills going through my spine. Just stellar stuff. Anyway, I've rambled. Let's get to our breakdown. Clearly, you can tell I'm very passionate about this. If you are passionate about Star Wars and Ahsoka, make sure wherever you are listening, hit that subscribe or that follow button. If you're on podcast platforms, please give me 5 stars, rate it, give it that 5-star number because it really helps the algorithm. And hey, you're not required to write some thoughts out with your review depending on what platform you're on. But if you are given that option, please take the time to do that because that helps as well. But hey, really the 5 stars is what's most important. And yeah, if you're on YouTube, subscribe for additional Star Wars content from me. But yeah, let's get into this breakdown. Clearly, this is going to be wild. This is going to be different from any one that we've done before so far. Usually I'm very like, boom, 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 let's do this thing. I don't want to waste your time, but I'm still kind of processing this. And I can't wait to process it with you throughout this breakdown, and let me know what your thoughts are. Let me know if you think this is a 10 out of 10 down in the comments, in Discord, on Twitter, at Mando Talk, all of those places. All right, title of this episode, Fallen Jedi. Let's start off here, beginning of the episode. We're really just going to run through the setup of this episode. That way we can get to the meat of the episode that I know you're itching to discuss. Huyang is working on the ship as Sabine attempts to contact Home 1. Ahsoka makes a bold decision to Sabine that if they can't take the map away from the enemy, then it must be destroyed. Ahsoka asks Sabine if she can count on her, and Sabine says, "You know you can." As soon as Huyang comes outside of the ship to begin working more, it appears the droid guards that Baylan in last week's episode sent out to find these Jedi have arrived, who then notifies Shin. Shin then notifies Baylan and Morgan, and Baylan orders Shin and Merrick to go take care of the situation. Morgan questions Baylan if she senses fear in his voice, and he responds by saying, "Experience." Great setup. We're clearly immediately picking up from last week's episode. It was great. Solid groundwork that really set the stage, really set the tone. Continuing on with our setup, Sabine is gearing up for battle as Ahsoka sees this as an opportunity to remind Sabine that sometimes doing what's right doesn't mean doing what you want. A droid then attacks Huyang, which alerts Ahsoka and Sabine to deliver some great action. And when I say action, this was just a tease of what was to come. It's always cool here. We get this opportunity to see a Jedi and a Mandalorian working side by side. And I loved it because it honestly, it reminded me of Ahsoka and Din Djarin whenever they worked together in season 2 of The Mandalorian. It was just fantastic. And you're going to hear me say that a lot. You're going to hear, again, still with a loss at words, you're going to hear me say those simple phrases, fantastic, awesome, incredible, a lot during this breakdown. But I really dug those moments. And then I liked here, again, more setup. Ahsoka commands Huyang to focus on fixing the transmitter to contact General Hera Syndulla. Huyang offers a request for the two to stick together since they always worked better that way. And I love the subtle humor that Huyang provides, but also, again, more dialogue, and I alluded to this last week, more dialogue to indicate that Sabine and Ahsoka have done some things together that not only Rebels, but all Star Wars fans have not seen necessarily. But they keep kind of giving us hints with this very important dialogue, and I'm absolutely loving it. All right, so now let's dive in a little bit more here. Back at the New Republic fleet, Hera commits to leaving without being authorized to do so, and we do get a ghost appearance. I think this is the first time in the season so far. If we did get a ghost appearance, it was in episode 2, just very, very briefly. But we're truly getting the Ghost in action here, which, of course, if you didn't know, in Rebels, that is our main ship. Like, that's probably where we spend the majority of our time in Star Wars Rebels. So seeing that Ghost, seeing that ship, Hera piloting with Jason side by side, with Chopper there as well, as a Star Wars Rebels fan, like, that was enough to make me grin from ear to ear and enough to already make me love the episode. Well, that continues on as far as giving us little tip of the caps. The Mandalorian connection here. Carson Teva goes along with her as he declares Hera as Phoenix leader. Now, Carson Teva showing up here, very important, because don't forget, in The Mandalorian Season 3, not only did we see Carson Teva with Zeb, which Zeb was an original member of the Rebel crew, of the Ghost crew of Phoenix Squadron. So it's very likely then that Carson Teva being here is a setup to get Zeb into this season. But don't forget as well, Season 3, the Mandalorian finale, now had Din Djarin come to Carson Teva in the final moments to show that those two were going to be working more so together, and also that Din Djarin is just going to help the New Republic in more ways than he has in the past. A lot of possibilities have opened up just with Carson Teva showing up. Now, I still don't think this season is heading toward a Din Djarin appearance. I think this show so far, 4 episodes in, has clearly shown that we are dialed in and focused on the story at hand. But I do think, I was feeling like 70% sure that Zeb's going to show up at some point. I'm now feeling like 80, 85, 90% sure that Zeb is showing up because Carson Teva made an appearance here. So I know that may have just felt like a massive like Easter egg or cameo or connection to the Mandalorian, but I think that opens up a lot of story potential as far as other characters coming to play. Anyway, another thing, I believe I spotted Brendan Wayne, who is the body inside the Din Djarin suit, inside the Beskar armor. Sometimes, he's not always the one that's in the armor, but a lot of the times, Brendan Wayne, one of the performers for Din Djarin that puts it all together, was a pilot in one of those X-Wing fighters. So that was really cool as far as another cameo, as far as another little Easter egg to make sure you noticed one of the characters there is Brendan Wayne, which he is the guy in the suit a lot of times for Din Djarin. So that was really cool. All right, we continue on in the episode. Balin tells Morgan that if her calculations are off, they will be lost in the void forever, and Morgan tells him to have faith. Balin says he lost that a long time ago. Morgan activates the star map and has a droid calculate the coordinates. Now, I am very intrigued by that line from Balin saying that he lost faith a long time ago. I'm assuming that has to do with him losing faith in the Jedi Order, especially once Order 66 happened, and maybe even prior to Order 66, like maybe prior to those events, Balin saw the writing on the walls as far as, okay, the Jedi have kind of lost their way here. Maybe that's what he's alluding to. I'm still very interested in this Balin character, and I want to know more. I want to know more about this dude's background. Seemingly, it seems like Ahsoka knows nothing about him, so we're going to have to learn it from him, Balin himself, or maybe Huang somehow finds out more information about Balin's skull and shares it with us, the audience. But just that small dialogue, again, I'm loving the writing style of this show. It's got me captivated. It's got me all in. Just that decision of him saying that he's lost faith a long time ago, again, very, very, very intriguing. All right, well, then the action begins. Shin and Merrick meet Ahsoka and Sabine in the forest. Sabine attacks Shin with blaster fire. Ahsoka and Merrick have a standoff before engaging in a lightsaber duel. Now, continuing, after disarming Sabine, her and Shin begin having their own duel, which that makes this their second duel. Okay, now, just pausing there real quickly before we get to a massive reveal. I loved the action here. Again, this is the first time that I believe in live action we've ever seen two lightsaber battles occurring within the same frame of each other. Like we had a Sabine and Shin in the forefront of the image, and in the background we could see Ahsoka and Merrick fighting it out. So cool. I loved that, adding a new layer to Star Wars, to the franchise, doing something new that we haven't seen before. That was really cool. Now, the next big reveal that we get is this Merrick dude. So many theories. I know I theorized that it was Sam Witwer under the mask. Well, we get an answer. Ahsoka slices Merrick, who then vaporizes into nothing but smoke. Now, I'm assuming then that means Merrick was a creation of Morgan's witchcraft. That's my assumption. Again, I've only watched it once. This is immediate kind of reaction / breakdown. I don't think we're given dialogue in this episode alluding to Morgan creating Merrick, but I think that's where all of our speculation needs to kind of lead to. I feel like what we were given in this episode and previous episodes regarding the fact that Morgan Elsbeth is former Night Sister, if she still is Night Sister, who knows? I think she still is, obviously. She's still doing witchcraft. That clearly there's a connection between those two, which I think would make sense. Now, I know some of you may be bummed that Merrick is out. I'm not. He was the one, in my opinion, that was most expendable. I think that's the phrase people say, because we didn't really know much about him. Like, there wasn't a face to the dude. There wasn't really much dialogue to the dude. So it's just really cool. It's adding another lore layer to Star Wars. We've seen witchcraft in animation, but never like this in live action. And I think this is a very nice way to kind of introduce it in a live action format, because it's something that you've probably potentially seen before in like some other media along the way. It's something that's just very like approachable. It's not like too over the top. It's something that we could very easily kind of all collectively get behind. But anyway, I know I had my own theories about Merrick, and I kind of leaned heavily into it being Sam Witwer under the mask, but I really, really loved this decision, if I'm being quite honest, because, again, adding more lore to Star Wars, and I just thought it was really fun. I just thought it was really, really, really fun. But anyway, yeah, No more Merrick. We're not going to see that dude anymore. But I do think he offered a great little battle here with Ahsoka. But golly, guys, and I think I've mentioned this before. Inquisitors, stop with the twirling lightsaber. You get offed every single time. It's silly. It's ridiculous. But it looks so cool. It looks so cool. So I can't blame them for continuing to have that shot in Star Wars. But the Inquisitors, they really got to learn from their mistakes at this point. Quit the spinny lightsaber trick. It is pointless. It does absolutely nothing. All right, anyway, Sabine orders Ahsoka to go and get the map as she declares she's got this as she continues to battle Shin, and Shin says she will regret this decision. Well, continuing on. And by the way, Shin is definitely winning that battle. Like, Shin is more powerful. She's better with a lightsaber. Clearly, she has more training. She's got that little Padawan braid. So, again, curious about Shin's past. Dying to know that. These characters of Baylan and Shin, so well written because no matter what they do or what they say, I'm so engaged with everything going on with them. Okay, the coordinates, so back with Baylan and Morgan. The coordinates are near being calculated, and Morgan tells Baylan to protect the map until she sends for him. That's when Ahsoka walks upon the star map where Baylan is sitting hooded and ready for battle. And then we get some very intriguing dialogue. Baylan and Ahsoka basically exchange some words. Even though Baylan knew Anakin, Ahsoka throws some shade by saying he never mentioned Baylan. That's just a slap in the face. You know, that's an easy way to humble your opponent. Dude, sure, you know my master. You know who I am. I have no clue who you are, dude. Like, get out of my face. Get out of my face. Love that little smack talk and the jabbing there going back and forth between Baylan and Ahsoka before this battle began. Well, Baylan is questioning if what Anakin became is what led to Ahsoka abandoning him. Ahsoka says she isn't there to discuss her past. Baylan is there to secure a future where Thrawn is in power. And even though Baylan seems to not want war, he knows it is necessary in order to create. So again, peeling back the layer here of Baylan, clearly he's got Jedi tendencies still inside of him. I mean, going back to episode 2, he says it would be a shame to have to kill Ahsoka. And here he's talking about how he doesn't really want war, but it's kind of necessary as far as attaining power, as far as being able to create. You have to destroy in order to create is kind of what he says. All of this stuff, like, I kind of get where he's coming from. And again, just a testament to great writing with this character. And I'm loving the back and forth that we get here between Baylan and Ahsoka. Well, the two then ignite their lightsaber blades and begin fighting. Now, before they actually clash sabers, and this is something going back to Star Wars Rebels, something that's very clear and evident with Dave Filoni. I think he's been on an interview saying this, that part of what makes a lightsaber battle special is the tension before those sabers even connect. And that is something that is so clearly evident within this lightsaber fight between Baylan and Ahsoka. Clearly, these are our main hero and villain here because he really, really, really builds this up. And testament to Peter Ramsey as well. He took the script and he really, really, really portrayed it well on screen. Well, it was very worth noting here that Baylan clearly fights with fierce power, while Ahsoka's fighting style is more so finesse, at least in these moments. Like, she's got all the moves. She's able to just, like, kind of silently, quickly retaliate. But, man, every time Baylan swings, like, it's a swing. Like, you know, in baseball, you've got your home run hitters that are literally swinging for the fences every single time that they swing the bat. Yeah, that's Baylan's skull. Like, he's going for the kill every time he swings that thing, and I really love it. Now, Ahsoka, she's playing the field. Oh, there's a gap in between short and third. I'm going to drill a line drive right in between them. Oh, the outfield shifted to the left. I'm going to pull the ball a little bit to the right field here so we can for sure just get on base. Diving too deep there into baseball. But those of you that watch baseball, you get it. That's what Ahsoka's like. She's your she's the finesse person, but Balin going for the home run, going for the kill every single time. Love that. All right, cut back to the forest. Shin is winning against Sabine. I've already kind of alluded to that. Suddenly, Sabine is knocked to the ground, but makes a small connection with the Force. This was a shock for me by pushing Shin's shoulder a little bit before using a wrist rocket. I can't remember. It's like a gauntlet or something like that. Very Iron Man-like. To then deactivate Shin's saber. Shin then uses a smoke grenade or something along those lines to vanish. And who knows, maybe it's like some magic thing that Morgan Elsbeth has equipped her with. But yeah, let's go back. Sabine, using the Force a little bit here. Now, I like this because I have to admit, again, going into this series, I wasn't looking for Sabine to be Force sensitive, but I'm all in on the explanation of everybody has the ability to connect to the Force. I'm so glad that suddenly in this episode, Sabine is not able to just throw things around or move trees or lift rocks or push Shin back 50 yards. So glad that we're not doing that. Clearly, we do have a connection to the Force now that we haven't necessarily gotten from Sabine yet this series. It's a little push that she does, just a slight push. And we see Shin's shoulder get knocked back from that Force push. So she's getting there, but we're not giving her all the powers just yet. And I'm so glad with that decision. And I really hope that it keeps slowly and smallly increasing each and every single episode. Now, it might not happen, obviously, with the ending of this episode. We might not see Sabine doing much with the Force maybe the next couple of weeks because of her current situation. But it's refreshing to know that we're growing. We're getting there. Eventually we'll be there. Well, let's see. Yeah, so Shin kind of bounces. Questionable decision there. Maybe maybe this is where a rewatch would serve well. I don't know if Shin's lightsaber was destroyed there or just deactivated, just turned off. Because if it was just turned off, I don't know why Shin didn't use the smoke, grab the saber, kill her. But because she didn't do that, I'm thinking maybe the saber's just destroyed. Maybe she didn't have the ability then in that moment to grab the saber and kill her because she can't use it anymore. But still, she could have used the smoke, choked her, because she's clearly not opposed to choking. We'll talk about that later. But yeah, those are some thoughts. Maybe she just prioritized getting back to Balin, making sure that the map was safe. So let's go back to Balin and Ahsoka. Ahsoka knocks Balin to the ground and grabs the map, but it burns her hand, making her drop it. This does halt Morgan and her droid from finishing the hyperspace route calculations. Shin then arrives from the forest, but Ahsoka quickly takes her out by force pushing her against a stone. Now, that immediately made me think of Attack of the Clones whenever Count Dooku's just throwing Anakin and Obi-Wan around left and right. But here, it's the other way around. It's the hero this time throwing the Padawan over to the side as far as Shin just being tossed to the side like, nah, you're not good enough for this fight yet. I kind of like that decision. I like that we're establishing who the more powerful characters are, and we're focusing in on those more powerful characters in these big moments. All right, well, at that point, it looks like Ahsoka is in trouble because she's at the ledge of this little cliff on Cetos, down where they're looking at this map. But then Sabine arrives and has the map in hand. Balin knocks Ahsoka off the ledge. Ahsoka kind of gets distracted. Balin uses one of those powerful swings. Ahsoka bounces. She's gone, seemingly dead. And we'll come back to that in a minute. But clearly to everybody there on Cetos, in that arena, I don't want to call it arena, in that location, everybody thinks Ahsoka's gone because she's gone off that ledge. It's a pretty big fall. She shouldn't survive unless she's able to do something crazy. Again, we'll come back to that. Balin begins chatting it up with Sabine, talking her out of destroying the map, revealing that her longing for Ezra is what's holding her back as far as her connecting to the Force, becoming a more powerful Force user. Let's see where we're at. See, there's so many notes here. I'm trying to make sure that I'm following along here. He mentions that Sabine's family died on Mandalore because her master didn't trust her. That's a reveal, folks. I have not seen, and again, I've watched all of Rebels. We've seen The Mandalorian. I have not seen Sabine's parents or brother, for that matter, die, right? In Rebels, I mean, I know they do like a fake death with the family members, but they didn't die. So again, this line, and let me say it again, he mentions that Sabine's family died on Mandalore because her master didn't trust her. So again, this is connecting to things that Ahsoka and Sabine did after the events of Rebels, but before now, that we have not seen. That I'm assuming we're just going to get more dialogue to fill in those gaps. Now, going even further here, if her family died on Mandalore, was that because of the Night of 1,000 Tears? Whenever the Empire bombed Mandalore and made it Mandalore look the way it looked in The Mandalorian Season 3? Or was that prior to that, where maybe Ahsoka and Sabine were doing some Jedi stuff, attempting to do Jedi stuff, and Sabine failed, Ahsoka failed, kind of being her master, and it led to Sabine Wren's parents' death? Maybe that. Maybe Balin, when he says Sabine's family, is just talking about the Mandalore people as a whole. A lot of interpretation you can take from that line. I want to know what you thought of that. Let me know down in the comments if you're on YouTube, Discord, Twitter, one of those options if you're on podcast platforms. I would love to know your thoughts on that. Clearly, those of you that are longtime listeners, I don't have DJ, excuse me, I just dropped my notes here. I don't have DJ or Zach or anybody on with me right now to kind of help me talk that through. So please help me out. Be the co-host with me. That would be fantastic. I would love that. Let me know your thoughts, and maybe we can kind of elaborate on that next week, and maybe as we get more answers with dialogue. How did you how did you interpret Sabine being told from Balin that because of Ahsoka, her family's gone? I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, he then tries to convince her to make the journey with him to Peridia. Sabine decides to hand the map to Balin. Suddenly, Sabine is being choked by Shin, but Balin orders her to let go as he puts the star map back into place. This allows the hyperspace route to be established. So, Balin, very committed. Again, here's some Jedi tendencies coming through. He's very true to his word. He said, Sabine, no harm's going to come to you if you come to this location with me, because I know you really just want to find Ezra. And he holds true to that. Shin comes in, hot-headed, wants to choke Sabine, rightfully so. They just got done fighting it out in the forest. Balin says, stop. I was a little worried that she wasn't going to stop there for a second, but she does. She listens to her master, and all three of them, safe. No harm done to them, except Sabine ends up in cuffs as she's then transported to the Eye of Sion. Well, before that, Hera and company arrives on Cetos, or I guess in the atmosphere of Cetos. Balin destroys the map to prevent anyone else learning the hyperspace route, so he's literally, and it was such a cool shot. Lightsaber stabbed through that ball. Looked so cool. Balin and Shin, with Sabine as prisoner, board the Eye of Sion, ready to launch. Even though the New Republic fighters are blocking the hyperspace path, Morgan tells the droid to ignore them and prepare for the jump. The villains make the jump, which destroys a couple of X-Wings. Jason then tells his mom that he's got a bad feeling. I love that. That's a very repetitive Star Wars line. Jason Syndulla is clearly going to be force sensitive at some point. And he's saying, I've got a bad feeling about this. Essentially a derivative of that line. Love that. Clearly catastrophic, these events here. Cool to see the Eye of Sion blast off into hyperspace. Very convenient that all the New Republic fighters are literally in the middle where the ball is, the circle, the Eye of Sion circle is open, which makes sense. A couple of them get wiped out. That's fine. We needed Hera and Jason and Chopper and a couple of those other X-Wing fighters, especially Carson Teva, to survive. So that checks out. And yeah, we're off as far as Sabine, Balin, Shin, Morgan, and Hera. That's the last that we see of those groups. Now, I'm assuming since they're in hyperspace, they're gonna get there pretty quick as far as our villains. I don't know if next week's episode's just going to focus on what we get there at the end of this episode, which I'm going to save on discussing anymore. But if next week's episode has more material than, I'll just go ahead and say it, Anakin and World Between Worlds and stuff like that, it'd be easy to imagine that those villains get to Peridea and we see Thrawn, but we don't quite yet see Ezra. I think that would make logical sense, but maybe they save that for like episode 6, the Thrawn reveal, and as far as seeing what the villains do when they first get to this new galaxy. I can't wait for that moment, though. It's going to be so cool to explore a new galaxy in Star Wars. Just saying that sentence, it's just absolutely wild. Absolutely wild. Anyway, all right, so let's finish off this episode. Down on Cetos, Ahsoka awakens, but she awakens in the world between worlds. Now, if you are a non-Rebels watcher, if I'm being completely honest with you, I kind of want to hold off on explaining what the world between worlds is in Rebels, because I fully believe that next week we're going to get answers to that, at least as far as answers that you need to know to understand this story. So if you're like me, if you've seen Rebels, we're going into this and seeing these final moments of this world between worlds thing, essentially this location with all of these different portals to different time and space within the Star Wars timeline, essentially. That's its most simplest explanation. Like us Rebels fans, giddy, grinning ear to ear, freaking out. We see and realize maybe all the possibilities that open up with us being here. But again, I kind of want to hold off on doing a deep dive and dissect into that, because with next week, we know it's written by Dave Filoni, obviously, but it's also directed by Dave Filoni. That tells me I think we're getting a lot of World Between Worlds lore explanation next week. So I don't want to muddy the water there. I don't want to try to give you information and then it's completely wrong. I think the story is going to tell itself. So just know that this location that we see at the end of this episode is the World Between Worlds, which looks phenomenal. The way that they played this in live action, this looks better than the animation version, in my opinion. The animation version's a lot of lines and curves and triangles and circles, and me as the math nerd, I love that stuff, don't get me wrong. But the smoke, the eeriness, like just all of it, the way it looks there in live action was incredible. But yes, Ahsoka awakens in the World Between Worlds. Now, I am led to believe here personally that Ahsoka has, loosely using the air quotes, Ahsoka has died. Ahsoka has died potentially, or Anakin, and this is wild, Anakin has potentially grabbed Ahsoka out of that spot in the timeline from the World Between Worlds. Like, Anakin was in the World Between Worlds. He found this portal. He sees these events of Balin versus Ahsoka, and he sees that Ahsoka is about to die falling off this cliff. And he grabs her out of that moment to the World Between Worlds at this point. But again, this is where it could get really confusing, and really confusing for me too. Because the World Between Worlds from Rebels, Ezra pulls Ahsoka out of a moment getting almost killed by Darth Vader, by Anakin. So it's just a lot of things going on with it being midnight essentially as I'm recording this and me not wanting to go too much over the 30-minute mark. A lot of things to speculate there, a lot of things to run wild with. Again, this is where we need to discuss. Let me know in the comments. Again, Twitter, Discord. Let me know, like, how are you interpreting all of this? Is this Ahsoka dying? And this is where maybe all the Jedi do actually go when they die, is going to the world between worlds. And then they kind of get this moment of, ooh, you get to be a Force ghost, or maybe you somehow get thrown back into the timeline. I don't know. We'll see. I think next week's going to answer a lot of questions, but I'm kind of loving the idea that maybe instead of in Rebels, Ahsoka is saved from Anakin, aka Darth Vader. I like the different dynamic where maybe this time Anakin is saving Ahsoka. Craziness. Just craziness. I cannot wait for next week. The lore potential, the further explanation of the world between worlds is there. And we'll see. I can't wait. But anyway, when she gets into the world between worlds, we do hear the line, "Hello, Snips. Didn't expect to see you so soon." As she then turns around, Anakin is there, Hayden Christensen. I've already freaked on that. And the end of the episode cuts to black, and we hear the Vader theme. And it even says in the captions, Vader theme, or something like that. There's a lot of different ways to interpret this. And I don't even know how to begin to break that down or expand on it, because there's so many different ways, so many different angles that they could go about telling that moment. And I'm just thrilled that we're getting it. I am just so thrilled that Dave Filoni was given the keys as far as just total creative control here, because this has Dave Filoni written all over it. And man, he's going for it. We're there. We've arrived. We're 4 episodes in and we're getting Anakin Skywalker and the world between worlds. Like, that is just absolutely insane. I cannot believe that we as Star Wars fans get to experience this stuff today, right now. We all saw Hayden Christensen back as Anakin. We got to see that in Kenobi, so maybe not a massive shock with that, but already at the world between worlds, and we're going there. We're doing a deep dive. That's incredible. Now, I will say this: if for some reason in next week's episode we quickly glance over the world between worlds, if in episode 5 Filoni doesn't really expand on it, it's really just there, then I will do a deep explanation and breakdown of what that moment really meant. Because I know I do have listeners, and you've reached out to me, and it's totally fine that you're one of these. I know I've got listeners that have not watched Rebels. And again, totally fine. My part of being a Star Wars podcaster is explaining the content that we're getting, regardless if you've seen Rebels, Clone Wars, Tales of the Jedi, all of the stuff where Ahsoka's been in. My job is to help you fully understand and appreciate the moment that we're getting. But again, I'm going to hold off on explaining all of that stuff unless next week, for some reason, they glance over explaining what this little area, this portal, this location is. Then I'll do a deep breakdown of what this moment here truly meant. But I don't want to try to ruin anything or try to get ahead of myself or say something that's incorrect. Because admittedly, World Between Worlds is something that's kind of iffy. There's debates, even between people that have seen Rebels, of what that really resembles and the potentials behind it. And I think this moment is Filoni's opportunity to really hit the nail on the head, make it 100%. This is what this location means, what it does, its impact on the franchise, things like that. And I'll leave it there. 10 out of 10 episode. Loved every moment of it. So many cool moments. This was Star Warsing, as I like to say. But it was a stellar moment and opportunity to just all come together. I mean, I immediately went over to Twitter too. Everyone's loving it. Everyone's freaked. Everyone's geeked. Everyone's losing it. And I'm so happy. I'm just a really happy Star Wars fan, and I hope you're happy, and I hope you're happy with this breakdown, this review, this reaction. It was more so a reaction in this episode because I'm just so mentally just way all over the place right now because it's just such an incredible moment. And I can't wait to hear from you guys. Let me know what you thought of this episode. Again, all those places I've already alluded to it, but I really want to talk about this one. I really want to hear what you think, guys. So please reach out to me. Leave me 5 stars wherever you're at, and subscribe on whatever platform you're on. And I'll definitely catch you over on the next episode dropping next week. Of course, my breakdown, review, reaction, discussion, spoilers, of course, will be dropping same time next week, and I can't wait for it. I really think we're in for something special. We're 4 episodes in, we're halfway through, and I think we've seen everything from trailers, so we have no clue what's coming. Well, of course, we haven't seen Thrawn yet, but we've seen Thrawn in the trailers. So, yeah, that's where we're at. Can't wait. Oh, gosh, it's going to be something special. This has already been special, and I can't wait to continue to share this special moment with you guys. But I'll catch you on the next one. I've rambled enough. Thank you so much. I appreciate each and every single one of you so much. You have no clue what this opportunity, this platform, this Mando Talk podcast means to me, as far as just getting to share a passion, getting to share my love for Star Wars, getting to share my love for Ahsoka, and hearing from you guys and knowing that people out there care enough to listen to me. It's pretty humbling. Pretty humbling experience. Thank you so much. I'll catch you on the next one. I've rambled enough. Time for me to get some sleep, but I probably won't be able to sleep because I'll be reading and listening to everybody's thoughts on this episode. But anyway, until next time, we have spoken.